Hey, hi there, it's me. I'm back, and welcome to another dose of interesting stuff. The almost daily homeschool supplement where we dive into topics that other people perhaps would not touch, but we find these things interesting. And so today we're going to be looking at medieval students. So let's dive in. Traditionally, learning had been based on the quadrivium: geometry, arithmetic, astronomy, and music, 4 subjects, and the trivium, 3 subjects: grammar, rhetoric, and logic. Interesting, the word trivial actually comes from the trivium. These 7 subjects were called the liberal arts, but actually had little impact on the course of studies at later universities, especially with the rise of church schools in the medieval period. So if you were a medieval student, then what was life like? Well, often you arrived hungry and footsore after having walked hundreds of miles from home, because a lot of the universities were in the big capital cities. People lived out in the countryside, and they had to travel a long way to get there, basically. No school buses at that point in time. So once a student arrived at the university, his head was promptly shaved, and older students raided his purse in order to throw a feast at the expense of the naive newcomer. Yep, welcome to university. Sounds a lot like Freshers Week to me. Well, that was just my experience. Maybe it's different now. Who knows? Ancient student life would involve ceaseless struggle, not only against frozen fingers and an empty stomach, but also sometimes struggle against the organizations that you were studying within and the lecturers, and maybe even solving conflicts with other students as well. On arrival, the first priority was to find somewhere cheap to rent, since there were very few halls of residence at that point in time. Aren't we lucky today? Students often took rooms in private homes. Sharing a room was common, and the poorest student might even share a bed for economy and warmth. Taking a step back previously, the 12th century saw a revival of interest in learning throughout Europe, partly due to the rediscovery of the works of the Greek classical philosopher Aristotle. Communities of teachers, later called universities. I've always thought universities should be called multiversities. Just the idea of making everything one didn't really appeal to me. This idea of having many roads that you can travel down. I always liked that better, but maybe that's just me. So these communities of teachers, later called universities, grew up in competition with the schools, which were attached to monasteries and cathedrals. There were no admission examinations. Entry was open to any free man who could pay the fees. Yes, money was important way back then as well. Good teachers attracted students from far and wide. At each university, the scholars formed themselves into guilds or nations with common interests, usually with people of the same nationality, since there were many clerks, most of which were training for a career in the church. Interesting that clerk was a religious position at that point in time. As a practical example, studying at the College of Ave Maria in Paris entailed chores as well as learning. Each week, one student, known as the hebdomadary, had to keep track of library books and feed the birds. The first student to wake was expected to ring the early morning bell and say Ave Maria. Feast days were celebrated with a hearty meal and a piece of theatre. Often, life was extremely strict in the universities. The student's day began at 5 o'clock in the morning. Discipline had to be adhered to at all times, and games and music were usually banned. And this would often lead to tempers flaring up. As an example, tension between students and townspeople was common. In Oxford, England in 1355, a street battle lasted 3 days and left 63 people dead after an argument over the quality of wine in the Swindlestock Tavern. That must have been an early form of student union bar, I imagine. So I guess that we really do have to count our blessings. I guess that we really do have to marvel at the modern access through technology that we have to information in the world around about us. Basically, there are no excuses in the modern world. Everything is out there for us to explore, to study, to learn, and we're almost overwhelmed. There's almost too much information at our fingertips. Sometimes we don't even know where to start. And I guess that's one of the reasons for recording these little podcasts is that we can highlight little pieces of interesting information and we can realize how lucky we are to live in a world of such abundant opportunity. Don't we have it easy? Some people would say we have it too easy. Well, I think we always need to put in the effort. Hard work brings rewards for sure. So, as always, I will add a couple of questions under the video if you want to refresh your brain and try to remember some of the key points. That would be cool. Otherwise, let me know what other topic you'd like to dive into, and I will do a short little presentation on it. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope this was interesting. Have a great day.